All right, remember with any line reference question, we're supposed to follow the +1 sentence rule. So if they're telling us to go to line 80, we can't just read line 80. We need to kind of get a sentence before and after to get the context for what they want. And in this case, the context tells us that one sentence more is not enough. So watch what happens here, right? So the ideal global agriculture is mentioned right here. So what should we read? Well, we should read starting here at the beginning of that sentence before. What that means is that while conventional agriculture is more efficient, sometimes much more efficient than organic farming, there are trade-offs with each. So an ideal global agriculture system, in the views of the study's authors, may borrow the best from both systems. So that's helpful, may borrow the best from both systems, as Jonathan Foley of the University of Minnesota explained. So look at that colon there. We're getting into a quote that is Jonathan Foley's opinion. And look at the question, according to Foley. So Foley is not the one using that phrase, ideal global agriculture system, in line 80. That's the author. But the author is using it to set up Foley in this quote. So we have to read this quote. So yes, we've already done our job and read +1 sentence, but the +1 sentence is making it very clear we need more. So when we read it, we don't need to get too deep into it. We can kind of just look for, again, main ideas or repeated ideas, what comes up multiple times, but we still need to look at this. The bottom line, today's organic farming practices are probably best deployed in fruits and vegetable farms, where growing nutrition, not just bulk calories, is the primary goal. But for delivering sheer calories, especially in our staple crops of wheat, rice, maize, soybeans, and so on, conventional farms have the advantage right now. So, advantages of each. Looking forward, I think we will need to deploy different kinds of practices, especially new mixed approaches that can take the best of organic and conventional farming systems, where they are best suited geographically, economically, socially, etc. So my dumb summary of what's going on here is we need a mixed approach, right? So now, okay, I can get more detailed about what's better or what's worse, but he's saying that there's a mixed approach. We need a little of everything. So let's look at the choices. A ideal global agriculture system will focus primarily on yield percentages in global markets. Well, no, they talk about yield percentages, but they talk about only focusing on that for certain kinds of foods and not worrying about that for others. So that word primarily, no matter what, is a strong word in any answer choice that I'd want to be nervous of. But here specifically, he says the opposite of that. So that's just wrong. B, considers multiple factors in the selection of farming techniques. So multiple factors sounds a lot like a mixture. So with just that, I'd be like, okay, that seems pretty good. Let's keep going and make sure, but that's a nice match. That makes me feel pretty confident. C, it weighs the economic interests of farmers against the needs of consumers. It's not talking about the economic interests of farmers. It's not talking about the needs of consumers. It's just talking about different foods. So this is just nothing about that is mentioned. D, it puts the nutritional value of produce first and foremost. Again, so he kind of says that, but he says this only for certain kinds of foods like fruits and vegetables. He's not saying that this is always what we need. And so phrases like first and foremost are very strong. We have to be careful of that. So A and D are actually kind of like opposites. They're both true in the sense that those ideas matter, but they're both wrong in the sense that the choices say that only those ideas matter. Only those considerations should be part of the ideal system. But his point is, though, that we have taken multiple considerations, a mixture, multiple factors, and so B is definitely the answer here. So just make sure you're not kind of like cutting corners. There's a lot of places where people can get this wrong because they're being lazy, right? If you don't read everything you're supposed to read, your laziness might come back to bite you. If you don't look at the choices and look for those little words that might make them wrong, again, you might pick the wrong thing because part of A and part of D are both true and stated in these lines. But there's an important word that, it makes the whole thing wrong. So even though it's partly right, we don't care about the part that's right. We care about the part that's wrong. And ultimately, that is entirely what we're doing on the reading section. We're always looking for what makes things wrong because that makes us much more confident when we find the right answer. So make sure you're not cutting those corners. If you're getting things wrong and you're surprised when you get questions wrong, it's probably because you're kind of being lazy with your process and you're not noticing the words that you're supposed to notice as you go through the passage.